I'm excited to share that GM Energy's bi-directional chargers are officially now ready to support V2G.
Starting next year, we plan to deploy second life battery packs at our own operating plants, starting with a site in Michigan.
NASA has just selected GM's battery technology to power the lunar outpost Pegasus rover in their Artemis mission that launches in just 2 years.
All right, everyone, welcome to Munro Live. I'm Jordan Arocha with Munro. I'm here with Cal Langton, the Chief Commercial Officer at Redwood. We are at a GM Energy event here in San Francisco. And so, Cal, you know, as an opening, there was a lot of good conversation on the stage here. Redwood's doing some incredible things along with GM. The partnership seems strong.
Well, I would echo that the demand growth is nationwide. It's really global even, and we feel it every day from customers trying to come to us for energy storage and stationary energy storage. It's part of why I'm so excited about being able to deploy repurposed and second life batteries really quickly, because this stuff is acute. I mean, the demand is sort of yesterday. People want a new industrial facility online immediately. And we've been able to repurpose gigawatt hours of storage with you and others, and be able to meet a significant chunk of that demand very, very quickly.
Maybe for the purpose of the audience, why don't you give just like a high level of what Redwood is doing with GM and some of the attributes that you see as part of this partnership?
Yeah, GM represents one of our broadest automotive partnerships. So really, the goal of Redwood is to create a circular economy for the battery supply chain and do that in the most sustainable way possible. And OEMs are a big part of that. So Redwood Materials, we don't make cells, battery cells, and we don't make cars. But everything below that line is a part of the value chain that we're involved in. And so includes now the reuse or the repurposing of the EV packs for energy storage, recycling and refining, to kind of like an intermediate phase for the critical minerals that are in EV batteries, and then remanufacturing those into battery grade materials to go back into the battery value chain. And GM is the OEM we probably have the broadest range of relationships with, and the announcement today was really focused on that first upstream part around the repurposing of EV battery packs, because we've already been recycling for GM for many, many years. We've been the exclusive recycler for production scrap from their partnership with LG, called Ultium Cells. We've been doing recycling for GM facilities, and we've been working with them on material return into their value chain.
Wow. Yeah, it's an incredible story arc looking at what Redwood is doing. I feel strongly that, and this is true with many of our customers as well, like the recyclability, the reuse, the total value of a battery pack in a vehicle, it does not end with the vehicle. And so many of our customers, startup as well as established OEM, are like, well, what are we doing on the recyclability? There's this environmental thing, there's the grid storage thing. And I thought what I took away from today's event are the things that you said, and it really couples the total life, I'll say value of a battery pack or these energy systems. But then also, the companies, like I look at Redwood and it's largely like the underlayment for what happens beyond the vehicle or with the vehicle. Now, one of the questions that we get often asked at Munro is, well, as we're helping companies design packs more efficiently, take parts out, make it such that it becomes a viable product, not just on the cost side, but on the pricing side for the customers. We get questions like, well, hey, Munro, how can we engineer this such that it's more recyclable on the back end? Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to ask Redwood is, what are your recommendations, or are there any on the design side that would contribute to better and a more efficient recycling? Yeah,
I'll say there's maybe two ways to answer this question. There are definitely things that can be done to make either repurposing for energy storage or recycling easier to do. And we have engaged in meaningful conversations across a range of different OEMs for that. But generally, it would include, modularity or the ability to disassemble into constituent elements, parts like a module level, at an easier level. It could involve, a more consistent protocol if you're engaging with a battery management system, things like that. All of those things kind of make, repurposing or recycling easier. Right. But what we've really encountered is that when it comes to the engineering of a battery pack, those design decisions are perhaps less impactful than the design decisions that an OEM would make around how to bring costs down or how to increase their own manufacturability. And we've really kind of taken a different approach, which is, say, philosophically, our approach as Redwood is to enable everyone to make the most appropriate design decisions for themselves, and then we will engineer our solutions to disassemble or integrate the material in our own way as efficiently as possible. And so I'll give you an example, like, if the cost reduction and improvement in energy density from a cell to pack architecture is meaningful enough for an OEM, that then lowers the cost of a vehicle, lowers the price point, and increases adoption of the EV. I'd much rather have that outcome than them design a less optimal battery pack that is perhaps easier to recycle at end of life. And so for us, it's about setting up those processes that are as adaptable as possible to all of those different form factors. Again, whether it's on the reuse side, the integration with our energy storage array, or on the recycling side. So even if it, again, is a cell-to-pack technology, we have the capability to disaggregate that, to extract all of the minerals that are inside, and to provide a lot of value both upstream and downstream.
So if I'm reading you correctly, it sounds like Redwood's taking the approach that it's like, hey, you know what? And rather than trying to have all these OEMs fit into this perfect design parameter box and say this is what an ideal recyclable battery looks like, you may give some feedback such as modularity or the ability to take out certain arrays individually or something. But in large part, you're saying, design the most efficient solution for you, and whether through the mechanical, the hydro, the chemical extraction methodologies that Redwood has, Redwood's going to react and make the processes for Redwood more sustainable. Now,
exactly, that's right. Fundamentally, that's through a lens of driving electrification, driving the energy ecosystem, and we think those decisions that, again, remove cost at the manufacturing side, remove cost for consumers fundamentally, or really make that flywheel, the circular economy flywheel move, is based off how consumers will respond to that product. And you can pass a lot of value on by making the right design decisions. And then we will, again, adapt our processes. And we do that at scale across a range of form factors and chemistries right now.
One of the major questions that I have is in second life, when you take a battery pack, you take it out of the vehicle, we're not recycling it yet. We're going to put it in, there's images on the screen today as an example of battery packs, a field of battery packs connected to a grid. And, some of those Rivian packs are doing this with GM and other folks. What is maybe one of the challenges on the technical execution side that you've observed? One of the things that comes to mind for me is thermal management's huge. If these are not covered, the environmental piece, the thermal piece, if you're not thermally managing them, like how is Redwood addressing that for a multitude of battery architectures when as we just talked about, not every battery architecture is the same?
Right. I mean, our challenges are, kind of broadly speaking, across a range of different topics, none of which are like insurmountable on themselves. But fundamentally, the technology we're building, we have a piece of technology, a piece of hardware. It's called the pack manager, and so it is designed to integrate this heterogeneous mixture of packs into a common output to provide functionality that's consistent with a brand new containerized LFP battery solution, but made up of these repurposed packs. So by design, we take all these different packs of different form factors and different chemistries and different ages and different communication protocols, and the pack manager acts as the singular interface point. And so we have a library of the communication protocols, and then the pack manager also provides the power conversion to create a consistent direct current or DC output onto what we call a common DC bus. So every pack type, and across the kind of like hundreds that we have seen, we have to do some amount of either work with the OEM or perhaps some reverse engineering on our own to build that library. So that takes work, and there can be challenges inside that. But fundamentally, they all operate on similar principles, and that enables you to measure down to the individual cell level at each pack. But you have to kind of do that work, and then really for us, one of the bigger challenges perhaps is like not just the design, but then the manufacturing of the power electronics. These are all custom power electronics inside the pack manager. So starting that up, building a manufacturing line, which is now at our factory outside of Reno in Sparks, and then getting that through certification with UL, and then getting those out in the field and deployed.
Sure. You're speaking to a lot of the things. I mean, that's a great explanation. When most people, that come to us that don't work in this particular domain or even perhaps industry, they kind of look at the recycling or the second uses. Oh, we'll just kind of plug them into the wall and they're going to do the rest. It's like, no, there's a lot of engineering feats that need to be addressed and taken into account, especially when you're dealing with such diversity in architectures and chemistries, et cetera. That's amazing. I think, go ahead.
Well, you asked about thermal management because that's something we think about obviously a lot. So safety, so it has to be functionally consistent, and it also has to be as safe or safer than any kind of, again, especially containerized LFP solutions and now sodium ion. We saw today announced by GM. And we do that, think about it this way too. A lot of these packs, these EV packs, were designed for very high energy, high discharge or high C rate applications. Yep. And now we're putting them into these, grid scale energy storage, much lower C rate, longer duration applications. So it's like a sprinter who's used to doing 100-meter sprints, now running a 5K.
Sure.
So the duty cycle is very different. And we use that factor and then the combination of the monitoring that is enabled via the pack manager, again, down to the cell level, voltage, amperage, and temperature to ensure like a supremely wide margin towards any kind of thermal limit. In fact, these are so wide away from thermal limits that you can build them into larger and larger arrays with increasing density.
So the C rate range is a major contributing factor to the stabilization of the whole storage apparatus.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Maybe the last question that really comes to mind is, I think about what Redwood's doing on the recycling piece of it, and it's like, well, beyond the pure environmental, why recycle? Well, it's because cost is a huge function. We look at the EVs, the adoption of EVs, it's difficult for people because the charging infrastructure does not yet look like a Shell gas station. Yep. There's a lot left wanting. When from your view, would the industry, we're seeing it a little bit, but like in larger force, will the cost piece of doing all this recycling domestically backfeed into the buying side for prospective battery customers? Meaning, when can the cost pressures get a break to an extent?
Yeah, we're already seeing that to some extent now. So first, by moving into energy storage, moving upstream, we can provide more value to our providers, our in this case GM as a partner, but effectively a supplier to Redwood. We can provide more value to them. So that supports their overall financial goals. It enables them to build more batteries. They're taking fundamentally less residual risk on the value of the battery, and they can pass that back to consumers. So we're working kind of upstream, even with captive financing arms of some of these OEMs to say, how can they start to bake in higher residual values from the batteries such that they can then pass that into a more attractive lease rate to a consumer. And that's happening today. So you're already seeing those mechanisms at work, right?
So if maybe for layman's terms, it's like we're taking a larger capital approach and commercial finance approach to either amortize or spread the immediate cost burden of those, knowing that there's this pot of gold that is really the return on the recycling into the base price.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah, and again, captive OEMs are very interested in that because they can use that for fleets or for their consumer customers to, again, provide higher residual values, which then results in a net lower lease payment to a consumer. So that's like happening today, a very tangible piece of that. The other piece too is the return of materials. So now you get into the recycling and the battery materials side of that. So how can we pass materials back to a consumer, back to an OEM that are consistent in performance and characterization? It means that these are metals basically, but at a certain level of refinement. Cheaper than they can import domestically. Basically, can recycled material be cheaper than net new mined material for critical minerals? And the answer is yes, and we can do it domestically. So that then goes into cheaper cell costs, which are then generally getting passed on to consumers in the form of cheaper EVs, because the cell makes up such a large proportion of the EV costs. And so those kinds of mechanisms are also happening today. So I think that flywheel is starting. Really, fundamentally comes down to a range of vehicles that meet the widest range of consumers' needs. Companies like GM are investing in that, other OEMs as well. I will say charging infrastructure has made large strides from a ease of use, ubiquity, and kind of standards integration. The adoption of the Tesla standard,
Sure.
I think is a big step towards that. And so I see all these mechanisms in play. So the kind of like continued growth trends for EV adoption remain quite high from my perspective.
Well, it's fantastic. Thank you for the feedback. Cal, we're going to be continuing to track what Redwood is doing. Really excited to see what you're doing with GM. And at some point in time, we love to take the audience deeper into what Redwood is really doing and why it's novel and why it's growing and why it's present in industry and why it has to keep going and on the trajectory that it's on. So really appreciate your time and looking forward to staying in tune with you guys.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Cal. Thanks, everyone.